Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, welcome. Today's stream will be a little bit different because I am bringing you an analysis of BDS Esport versus Chaos. They were the team to obviously go to the map of Theme Park, which is now in the Pro League rotation. Very exciting. A lot of people a little bit upset that Bank got tossed out for Theme Park. A lot of people upset that Theme Park is even in the rotation. But either or, highly tactical map. So very excited to go through that matchup between Chaos and BDS. Then following that, we will go through the brand new G2 lineup and how they went up against Rogue on Clubhouse. Unfortunately, they did not take the win as many were expecting they should, but I want to break down why they didn't and where their future is likely headed as a result of this first game. Again, this might take a long time, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome. Bunker in, hunker in. I myself have a coffee sitting here with me to get through this, but I will try and break down every round. I will put a quick disclaimer on this video, and if you're watching on YouTube later, that what I am doing is focusing on one team predominantly from both matches. For the first matchup between BDS and Chaos, I will be predominantly focusing on Chaos's defensive setup. That's something that I think a lot of people are interested in. How do you set up? How do you hold on a map like Theme Park? What do you have to watch for? How can I use my utility and gadgets? So that's the team that I'll be focusing on. I won't be really commenting much on BDS. And then following on from that, G2 versus Rogue, I'll be pretty much 100% focusing on G2's gameplay, what went right, what went wrong, and how they could improve into the future. So that will be the focus for this particular stream. I won't be talking to the chat. If I see a really good question, I will answer it for the benefit of this being a YouTube video and a live stream as well. But other than that, make sure you enjoy. If you do have questions and you think it will be relevant for the video, definitely ask. But if I don't get to them, don't be hurt. I'm not here to talk to the chat. I'm here to just pretty much blaze through this analysis here tonight. And yeah, if you aren't aware though, Pro League did come back yesterday, at least for EU. And that's been a very exciting time for all of us. So I really appreciate all of you being here, and of course I will do my very best to break this down in the most coherent way possible. I want you all to understand whether you're of a Pro League level or you're just learning about competitive now. I want this to be a very clear and simple but also in-depth demonstration. So we'll see whether I can balance those for you guys, and I really appreciate when this does go on YouTube tomorrow, whether or not a little bit of feedback is something you could get. I'd really appreciate that. All right, so we will need to move to another scene. I hope I don't stuff this up, ladies and gentlemen. Let's have a look. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I think you can hear me now. So, does look like we will be able to go forward. I will be muting the stream. There is no need for us during an analysis to hear the casters. It doesn't add anything to my analysis. And that's not to say they don't have brilliant points. Of course, your color casters, play-by-plays, etc. It's just that when we go through an analysis, we're only focused on what we're seeing and what's going on in the game rather than any comments being made. So the stream will be muted. You won't actually hear any gunshots or gadget sounds or anything, but that's beside the point, because I will point out to the best of my ability everything for you. So if you feel you've missed something out, don't worry. I'll try my best to point it out for you. As I said, the first one we'll be going through is the BDS versus Chaos on Theme Park, the first team to play it. And I'm really excited to see this going forward. So, quick sip of the coffee and we will get started. You guys can see on the right here, if you're wondering what this is called Epic Pen. This is what I use to draw on my screen to give you guys a really good indication of what I'm talking about. And we'll begin with the analysis. Let's make sure this is high quality for you guys. There we go. I love that. And make sure it's muted. Cool. All right. So if you're not familiar with Theme Park, it did rotate Bank out of the competitive map pool, and it brought Theme Park in as a result. Chaos banning Hibana, not a surprise. I will give you two reasons why. One, a lot of the time you can impact trick on a map like Theme Park. We've seen this on multiple maps. Bank was one of them where you could impact trick as well. Several other maps allow for impact tricking in multiple capacities on walls, on hatches, etc. A Habana at a very low height on very high walls that are on Theme Park would not allow an impact trick to be effective. Putting it as low on the wall as you can, it would open up the wall. It also allows for people to open up the walls from very far away, and Theme Park is a bit of a map where those long lines of sight can be really handy. So Habana going off the board, not a surprise. I thought it was a good ban. Of course, BDS is starting on attack. I do actually believe, and this is something I said at Invitational, that you should ban Shaiko's Habana because he was so strong on Habana. You'll see throughout this game, because he didn't have his Habana, he actually goes onto the Ash and was as effective, if not more effective, with the R4C. So I don't know if this was a complete target ban, or if it's a target plus it's an effective attacker ban. We will see. So, yeah, bit of an interesting one. Not sure if it targeted Shaiko 100% or not. BDS banning Montaigne. I'm not surprised by that at all. We've seen Chaos use Montaigne to full effectiveness before. And of course, on Theme Park, you've got so much to worry about that if you add a Monty to the mix, it's just too much. So, and of course, BDS getting rid of Mirror. You're starting on attack. The last thing you want to go up against is a Mirror. So, and Echo. These are pretty default bans, I would argue. Obviously, the Habana being the one area where you could argue multiple reasonings behind it. But we'll see, we'll see. As you can see, BDS starting on attack, Chaos starting on defense, and I believe Chaos starts on Armory, as you would expect. Armory is one of the strongest sides. You'll see further on into this matchup that BDS thinks otherwise. I'm not sure the reasoning behind that. It also didn't work in their favor, but we'll start with this round one to start off with. One thing I want to point out very quickly is that what we have here from Chaos is they decided to show no wall denial. I think that is so insanely brilliant. Purely out of the fact that I don't know if they decided to 6-pick Rafale off of the Maverick and go for the Thermite instead, because he would have had grenades to deal with the Bandit trigger. They didn't see a Bandit on the lineup. They thought, oh, we don't need to do a soft Maverick breach on Armory wall, or maybe they're not even going Armory at all. I just wonder what the thought process was there behind that. And I'm actually going to skip back. Yeah. So there was about 5 to 10 seconds of conversation there that they've had before Rafale decided to 6-pick. So very, very possible they turned around and went, hang on, they don't have any wall denial. There's no way they're going down an Armory. That's suicide if you don't have wall denial. Shartay goes, I actually am 6-picking to the Bandit. And there you go. So they don't have any grenades now to deal with the Bandit trigger. This is so insanely dangerous. You can Zofia concuss, which I believe is what they want to do, but you'll see in a moment that that actually doesn't really even matter, especially for the first round and how Chaos sets up. Now, you're probably wondering what Shartay did then to begin with. He actually shot up into the roof of maintenance to make a line of sight. That's actually where the hatch drop is as well. Now, I don't think he opened that to challenge the hatch. I would find that a really weird angle to hold, especially when there's maintenance window there. You wouldn't sit there, aim up the hatch that way. That's not something that I would expect. I definitely think it's for a more later game kind of play and ability to assist from down below. I don't know if shotgun in the top also allows to see that vertical. I mean, we can't see where that's placed exactly, but obviously there's a reasoning behind that vertical. And of course, shotgun's going into the wall. A lot of people talking about how that assists propagating sound on a more horizontal fashion. A lot of people argue, no, that was disproved. Either way, doesn't hurt you to throw a couple of shotgun shells in there, and just in case. Now, I do want to point out, and we actually missed it before. secretly decides to open a tiny little crouch rotate into drug. What this allows is for him to hold from drug. If anyone tries to push from arcade hallway into the door, he can see them. I'd be surprised if anyone got past the double doors and didn't know he was there, didn't drone him. So the hole's just kind of like a last resort kind of rotate. But I like it. I like that there's that tiny opportunity because the attackers aren't really going to use that. None of the defenders are going to come running out of arcade door whatsoever. So it doesn't help them to hold that angle, but it does help defenders if they want to rotate through back and forth, back and forth. Vito obviously opening the rotate from Vault onto the yellow platform. This is a super popular rotate. Super, super, super popular. You would only close it if you had a team that constantly moved across here and in. Otherwise, you would keep it open. You would be downplaying your team's ability if you closed it. Now you'll see all of BDS decide to spawn over near bumper cars to the east. This actually plays really well into the setup that Chaos have, except for the fact that Lems is doing the right thing. He's going to be the one to pinch from the west. So it's a predominant east push with a west pinch as well. And this Mozzie is delaying all the drones that BDS are able to get in. And once you'll see, the primary point of target for BDS is cache and then dragon hallway, and to then get into control and from there be able to take vertical control. I assume the breaching charges are on several of these operators, and that's the point to get the vertical control. There's always going to be a player from Chaos running around in Vault area and another one around near waiting area. And you'll see from the setup that they've got, and I'll be able to point this out to you. Now that they have top dragon control, it actually doesn't mean anything. You can have top dragon control for the entire round and it won't mean a singular thing. Right here, I want to point out that these walls are actually soft at the moment. They also don't have any holes in them. They decide to change that later on, but that's where the actual firepower from Chaos is. They've set up Vulcan shields there. And this is really, really deadly. Right there is a room we call waiting room. That room there is set up with multiple shields, multiple lines of sight. There is a Wamai magnet set up in the corner as well from cache double doors, so that if anyone tries to throw or shoot anything to get rid of the shields, it gets caught by the Wamai magnet. But you'll see pretty well soon after in other rounds how they try and deal with that regarding grenades. Now, all Chaos needs to do is actually delay a lot of time. Rafale has to use one of his breaching charges on the top. Alems, who was then attempting to enter through on the north, or rather sort of the west, gets taken out very quickly by the Yellow Stairs player. Yellow Stairs player, I should say, Vito, takes out Shaika, who tries to refrag, but that wasn't actually even the player who was contesting Alems. So there's so many angles being opened on the top floor that BDS is so focused on them, and it becomes a huge issue for BDS to even be able to get that top floor control. You're now halfway through the round and Chaos is still having one person in Vault, one person on the rotate, or at least on Yellow Stairs, no one able to pinch from that side because Alems died, and another person waiting room area / initiation. So you've got 3 people there and you haven't even been able to open site wall. The C4 coming out from Vito there, I mean, that's expected. They've got numbers here. They know they have utility to play with. And at this point, they're just going for frags, and all Chaos need to do is hold angles and play time. You can even see that they're deciding to like bait them all the way over to arcade, when they started as a complete east push, and then they just drop down and go back to site. I'm not surprised it was a flawless round, because the moment you got upstairs and you couldn't deal with the people who were in vault, etc., Alem's dying was a very key part of that. You cannot do anything. That top floor hold can be extraordinarily detrimental to a push onto Armory. I also argue, however, that unless you have really superior vertical holes, which you cannot get above Armory, you cannot get above the throne, I should say. Throne room doesn't have breachability above it. There's only one slight area where you can see over the reinforcement in control room, and even then it's not much of a line of sight whatsoever. So if they wanted to just go into maintenance or go into barrels, open it up, rush in and plant, the players above have no opportunity to stop the plant because there is no vertical option. So I argue that possibly all BDS needed to have done was hold flanks and rotates down, or even just stand at the top of arcade, stopping people from opening barrels hatch if they chose barrel, or from above maintenance and opening those verticals, and then try and open the walls on site, especially those throne walls, because no one can watch you above. So the top presence actually doesn't really do anything. It doesn't actually provide any pressure because they cannot get vertical angles on you. So I think Chaos's setup is great because it lures people into the false pretense that they need to clear them, but they actually didn't even need to clear them. Going into round 2, you can see that Chaos decide that Bunk is the next play. I argue that is the second best site on the map at the moment as well. So not a surprise to see them go there. Good to see both a Wamai and a Go-Yo being played. Go-Yo shields, he has multiple of them. Maybe one too many, many of us would argue. And you're able to set them up everywhere, and you can have Wamais around. And you can effectively stop anyone from being able to destroy multiple Vulcan shields, and they could just stay afloat the whole time. So I do want to point out very quickly, and I notice I haven't used my epic pen, so let's get that pen out. You can see Shate here setting up this shield. Now, the reasoning for this shield is twofold. There's a box here that you can't really see. There's a box right here, and a lot of people like to hold that angle all the way over. Now, I wonder if I can make this skinnier. Can I make the pen a little... No, I don't want to buy your epic thing. There we go. All right, perfect. So what this shield here does is allow for a little bit of a safer line of sight all the way over onto cafe door. A lot of people hold that with an ACOG. You could argue that that would be Red Groove's job. But I believe, and I can't see it, but I believe he resets it because what he wants is a tiny line of sight on the right-hand side of this shield. Now, this is something that I believe is meant to completely disable anyone from coming in to cafe without having to absolutely destroy, challenge, use utility, etc. So, get rid of this. Yeah, so you can actually see him check the angle and it's not right. He moves it, places it back down, checks the angle, he's happy with it. Cool, no problems, off he goes. And then we start to see the next phase of the defensive setup, the shields. Now, these shields that we spoke about before when they were obviously pushing above Armory is the default Chaos setup. The default Chaos setup is to use these Go-Yo shields, and if I was versing them on THEMEPARK, I would absolutely ban Go-Yo, absolutely. And to use these shields to the best of their ability to stop any of the pushes that are coming in from these sides. Reinforcement on Vault, not a surprise. Reinforcement on Control Room, also not a surprise. They are doing an extended top floor hold with no vertical or underneath pressure as their default setup. I want to make that known as their default setup. Another Vulcan shield going there. That will force a vault. If someone was to come from control, that would force a vault because most of the time Renaults will play around waiting room area. And his job is to hold this angle across. They also put a rotate, and I will skip back to show that. They also put a rotate from initiation in. The reason for this is because they've extended themselves so far over away from the site. They've actually completely taken over almost all of top floor. They allow themselves to a way to rotate back should they need to in multiple fashions. They will have also opened vault wall without a doubt, and we'll be able to see that in a moment. But if they start to lose control of these key areas that they've put actually a lot of reinforcements and utility towards, if they start to lose control of these areas, they have an escape plan. Every single one of them has the ability to escape should they need to. And it's having that backup plan when you know things are going to go wrong that makes this setup very good. Pointing that out there, almost missed it. Magnet goes up here because if someone tries to stand here and get rid of this shield with either a Zofia impact, Ash impact, doesn't matter, grenade, it will go whoop and straight back up here. And that's one whole very, very important piece of utility gone. So really, really important, that magnet there. But it is countered almost instantly by BDS, which I love to see. I love to see it. You will see it during this round. Now, this is the difference. On the round where they held above throne, they did not open lines of sight in this wall. This time, they decide to open this about, shoulder height so that whoever's playing on the shield can play behind it and see right through into cash door, because that's where BDS chooses to come in. They choose to come in, all of them, from this way. And that's how they try and push. They do, as I said, have one person push from cafe, but that's one person. When you're figuring out your setup, you want to aim your setup towards the predominant amount of players and try and deal with the singular player another way. A lot of people ask why this wasn't reinforced. It is completely unnecessary to reinforce it. You cannot shoot it from here. It doesn't offer you any lines of sight. Once you're in cafe, you could open it here, but what are you going to see? Other than possibly being able to open it, run in and plant, you have nothing you can see. You would then have to open this as well to be able to see anything, and it becomes almost just a waste of utility at this time. So removing the reinforcements, the two reinforcements from here and moving them over here is way more successful than putting reinforcements there. The reinforcements here make sense because if Shate was to lose cafe control, these ones offer a far better line of sight than anything else. Again, the tiny little crouch rotates coming out from Vito with the shotgun there secretly as well. Really well set up. And again, this east to west sweep that BDS put in is coming out again. This time they know, though, that there is going to be the same setup from Chaos with tiny little tweaks as we spoke about before. I do argue that the aggression from Red Groove onto Cash isn't really as necessary as he is making it. We can see this angle here, and I put this on my Twitter before. This angle is really, really strong. It would be one of the strongest angles that exists on this map. By opening up this line of sight here and having these shields here to play behind, and also having that magnet up there, and you'll see in future rounds they actually decide to put an ADS here to counter any of the top throws, then you own everything. You own so much control on this top floor that it would be almost impossible unless you just started to rappel on the south side and push in through cafe and arcade stairs. You would have to rotate your entire push. So this angle are really big props to Chaos, because this is strong. This is counter adaptation. This is knowing how to manipulate the map in all of its design to work in your favor. And unfortunately in this round, you'll see that they actually are far too passive with this angle. And in future rounds, they learn that they need to be a little bit more passive aggressive or a little bit more aggressive with this angle, rather than letting people in and getting this wall open or getting them to walk into bathroom like Shaiko does. This is what I would argue a meta setting setup that we're seeing here from Chaos, because if you can tell me or show me a better angle from waiting room, which happens to be one of the most safest rooms to sit in when you have the appropriate utility around you. No one can shoot you because there's no windows in initiation. There's no windows in vault. There's nowhere else you can get shot from. You can't get shot from behind because sight's there. I mean, unless someone drops the hatch and runs at you full speed, good luck. There should be someone playing on yellow platform or vault or something like that. Then this can be one of the safest rooms in the entire room or entire top floor, and playing it perfectly. There's actually, and I didn't notice that the first time I watched it around, was that there's actually, over on Cafe, 2 of the other players, of the remaining players, holding Cafe because they knew that that's where Lems came from last time. And they're pretty damn sure, which they have every right to be, that that's where he's going to come in again. Barricade broken as well, drones coming in, all indicative of him pushing that side as well. And they know he's alone. This setup from the defenders is something I call triangulation. It's when 2 roamers, or 2 people rather, are holding a crossfire formation in a triangle formation. They know that the attacker that they want to get should be coming at this point. The door is over here. And what they're doing is they're holding a triangle where they believe the enemy to be. They're holding a triangle formation, which gives the best opportunity for a crossfire and an ability to at least refrag your other defenders. Say Vito peeks, he sidesteps a little, he peeks. We have Chate, who sidesteps a little and peeks at the same time when a Lems tries to enter, for example. A Lems cannot shoot both at once. Why? Because of this triangle formation. It is a brilliant way to form yourself during a crossfire. So this is what we're talking about when I talk about triangulation. It's when 2 players know that at the very least, their angles and their triangulation will give them a refrag. And that's all you can ask, especially when there's one solo player pushing from this side. Once you kill him, you don't have to worry about the West. You simply do not have to worry. And that's why these 2 players are set up in this formation. I really harping on about triangulation because Chaos is a team that isn't the best mechanically, but I feel like the game sense and the setups that this team has is far superior to a lot of teams. Far, far, far superior. And if they could enact it more fluidly and more efficiently, they would be an unstoppable force. And if they were more consistent. Now, I forgot to point this out before, and it's in one of the rounds. You'll actually see it as well. Secretly plays in initiation as smoke. And the reason for that is that if someone drops this hatch, and you'll be able to see it sort of as I start to play it again, you drop this hatch, you have 2 options. You can go behind, there's a control desk thing there. You can go behind the control desk and hide behind that and hold the angle on to this door. Or there's a door over here onto Dragon Hallway, and you land, go out that way. Now, as a smoke, you can trap someone behind this control desk. And I believe that's why they're put secretly on the smoke, is because you can have more of an effect with smoke trapping someone in a corner than you can try to deny the plant. I don't think he's meant as a plant denial. I think he's meant as a trapping operator in this particular setup. Now, this is something I really liked from Ironics, who is actually RX. He's changed his name. I don't know if that's a permanent thing or whatever, but that's RX. And what he has decided is that there's a magnet sitting in the double doors over here. So he can't throw, excuse that arrow, he can't throw that grenade down the hallway onto the Vulcan shield that's sitting here. Instead, what he has to do is he has to use the gap up here and arch it over in order to destroy the Vulcan shield. The problem with what he's done, though, and the way that he's decided to arc this is he is not in a position to make it bounce down. It needs to bounce down directly because the Vulcan shield actually is, and excuse this other one, the Vulcan shield is actually sort of on the corner of this wall here. And so in order to get it, he would have to bounce it off the roof straight down. He is not in a position to do that whatsoever. So where he needed to have gone actually was gone in the hallway, which is a little bit risky, and then bounce it off this side here down. And that would have destroyed the Vulcan shield that's sitting right here. That's actually giving BDS the most problems, the most issues with being able to push. Instead, there's another Vulcan shield back near waiting room double doors, and that's the one he destroys just simply because of the arc of the grenade. So, great idea, but needs to have a more prominent purpose. And I would argue that shield there was the one to get. And for all those people telling me to activate Windows, I do have my code. I just haven't done it yet. And that there, I pointed this out before. I felt like Red Groove didn't need to be as aggressive in bathroom as he was. The setup wasn't for cash. The setup wasn't to hold cash. The setup was to hold vault and initiation. That's what their setup is. So if you lose cash, that's okay, Red Groove. That's okay. If you lose bathroom door, that's okay. Because you still have vault. You still have vault. You still have initiation. You still have the crossfires. You still have the rotates out of vault and initiation back into side. So you've wasted half of the round, and you're trying to challenge the first room that the attackers are moving into. It was unnecessary. In that moment, I believe that was completely unnecessary. Now that they have this, they can effectively open the vault wall. The other Vulcan shield goes finally. It actually lights Renault's up exponentially. And now they've made the call with over half the round remaining. They can rotate back through initiation, back through the rotate, and they can go back onto site. Now, if you're the defenders, you've lost one. A lot of people have taken hits, but you've wasted more than half of the round. They're going to waste one of their exothermics on vault wall, which is fine because there's lines of sight opened up anyway. None of the other walls they need to open up anyway. They could possibly open up vault into yellow, but that's already opened up for them, so it's all theirs. Now we can see that Alems can move in, should he want to. He's actually just here to cut rotates. A lot of people think, oh, why didn't Alems move in? Why is he not doing anything? He's the fragger. No, his job is to cut the rotates across arcade and across on the arcade hallway over there. His job wasn't to overextend, not at any point. His job was to wait for his team to do their necessary steps on that particular side, on the east side, and to wait, cut rotates where he could. More droning comes out. I argue they kind of stalled out for a full 20 to 25 seconds there where they didn't need to. They needed to be quicker. They knew they now took control of that side of the map. They needed to get in quickly. You can see by Alems looking across on the yellow platform, he was actually still concerned someone was in vault. So they obviously took too long to drone to see that they now finally had that control. And now you can see that they're in and they go, okay, we can get in now. Unfortunately, there's only about 50 seconds left. Now, if you're Chaos, you're feeling a little bit better because you know that they are going to be running out of time as they sort of get in. Smoke's coming out a tad early. Really, really quite early actually there. And this is what I was worried about overextending, is that Alem's job wasn't to overextend, it was to hold rotates. Instead, he decided to start pushing up and overextending. I would have liked to have seen it. I don't know whether or not we can. We can back it up a little bit to see if they show the full... They do. Yeah, okay. He had 2 concussions and 1 impact. I argue he should have impacted, and we'll move back a little bit, he should have impacted the vault wall onto the yellow platform there. It was already open on this side. If he impacted and opened it here, he could have strafed out onto yellow platform and been able to watch the entire hallway for his team whilst they worked out the wall over on initiation, which would allow them to plant. Instead, he moves into the hallway by himself with no refrag ability, and he doesn't have the opportunity to do much. He's actually trying to creep up and get a free kill, and it doesn't net him anything. Little bit of early smokes coming out. As we said, Alems gets taken out. 25 seconds left. Those missed shots by Shate from the org on Wamai, I saw all night. I saw so many missed shots with the Wamai, even on like G2 and everything like that. We'll go on that game after this one. And I don't know whether or not it's just the org or what it is, but I saw so many missed shots with the org, with Wamai specifically, in multiple games. And I'm confused why I'm seeing that. Maybe it's a lot of people not used to the org. That might be what it is. But yeah, overall, I'm not sure why so many. But I think that was really critical in that round, that he missed those shots there. And that's what leaves it down to a 2v3. This is what I don't understand now. Is that they have all of this open from initiation. They've had this control for over a minute. I would argue even a minute and a half. They had all of initiation, they had all of vault, etc. Now, where's the diffuser, number one? Why is Thatcher running in to break after they just drone him there by himself? And now the plant goes off. I don't understand for the life of me why Shaiko's planting. Obviously, whoever his teammate that had it, Rafal, he must have picked it up and it was the only person who could take it. Okay. I still don't understand why they didn't just try and have the planter run in and all the hallways covered. They had every control. So you've got enough control all the way onto Vault, all the way onto Yellow Platform, all the way in Cafe. You have every bit of control that you need and lines of sight that you need. You had initiation wide open and you still manage to have your Thatcher run in to break and die. He could have stayed in initiation and held the angle across on a break. They knew someone was in there. They just droned him. And the other players on the other side there, and I believe it was it Ironics who was still alive? Yes, Ironics could have held that line of sight from Yellow, or at least from over on Arcade here, and left the other angles to Renshiro over on Initiation side, or Initiation double door, and we would have been able to see a far better result. Instead, you have two of the, I would argue some of the best support being able to clutch this out unnecessarily. See, I don't know why you would hold the planter that close. You don't need to be that close. You can actually hold from outside near Yellow or the line of sight all the way into sight onto the rotate as well. It not directly on the rotate, but if someone came in, you would see them cross. And because Shaiko's planting behind the toy train thing, I'm not sure how to explain it, but the toy train in corner, he can't get shot from there. He can get C4, but the C4 was already expended. So you could hold that from outside. And had he have held it from outside, he would have seen Vito coming from the hallway. So being that close to your planter can be a real sticky situation really quickly. It was right of Shaiko to get off the defuse there as well. He got lucky on Vito. Vito actually should have killed him with the shotgun. And then I believe this goes into a rehost. It does, cool. So let's skip forward a little bit. A little bit of a lengthy rehost. But what I want to point out so far, and let me get up my notes from this actually, because now that we're in round 3. Okay, this is the round where they have the ADS. Cool, so I can point this one out for you guys. Pretty much the same lineup from Chaos here. Nothing too crazy. Obviously, Red Groove on the Jaeger now. And that's for a very, very specific reason, which I will point out as the moment comes up to show you the utility. It's exactly the same setup in waiting room that we spoke about before. The same shields. Same reinforcements coming out. The same rotates will occur as well, because there's no need to fix something that isn't broke. This setup works. Now here we go. Last time we had RX stand here, lob a grenade over the top, and destroy Vulcan shields. This time Red Groove says no. If you want to get it, you've got to expend flashes or concussions from Zofia, or what else have they got? They'll have a bunch of flashes here. They've got Zofia's concussions and impacts and stuff should they want to use it. But overall, Red Groove says no. If you're going to do that, I at least want you to lose a grenade, etc. And then the barbed wire so no one can push on up. Another ADS goes on the ground there. I love that one. Love, love, love that. Because that's going to catch anything that decides to come down hallway. They might cook this. I don't know, flashing over or whatever it is, or they might flash down the hallway and think that they've got the ADS. But they won't have had the ADS because there's 2. There's one there and there's one there. And I really like that. I really like that. They could EMP here and just easily destroy it, right? But that's such a specific EMP. You wouldn't know until you drone that completely out. Same shield from Shate coming out over to hold Cafe. And pretty much just the exact same setup we saw before. Nothing wildly changing. Chaos pretty happy with the setup that they've got with this. Red Groove goes and preps Barrel's window, I believe. And this is where the consistent pre-placed Claymore onto Arcade window instead of Barrel's window is a bit of a sticky one. A lot of people don't know whether or not they should be Claymoring Barrels or whether or not they should be Claymoring Arcade window. Arcade window is easy to obtain access to by the defenders because they can just jump down off the arcade balcony and jump out. So that's why it's considered probably the one to Claymore. But Barrels is the one I've noticed people jump out of more. So the fact that Alems always puts his Claymore on Arcade window instead of Barrel's window is exactly why I think in this round you'll see that the Barrel's jump out, which Red Groove just prepped, is the one that happens instead. Now this, and I need to see what Renshiro had, whether or not he had breaching charges or he has, because an entire impact is used there. They know they run Go-Go, and one entire impact is used by the Zofia there. And if Renshiro had breaching charges, that would be extraordinarily irresponsible. So we need to double check that. I don't know if they had a drone down there or whether he heard the barricade breaking as he went to jump out. I'm not entirely sure, but beautiful response. Beautiful reflexes from Alems. Maybe they had a drone down there. Super specific. But it's really easy to get a drone into Barrels. Really easy, so not surprised. There's so many places to hide a drone. Again, exactly the same push from Shaiko into Cash. And they'll look to open up that vault wall again. And they actually did it. Okay, there you go. What they did And I actually didn't notice this, but this was my idea to throw the EMP here. They actually had Renshiro put the EMP on the hallway, and it had to have destroyed this ADS and this ADS. So again, BDS doing wonders by countering all of the ADS in Wamai play, because they're now just getting rid of it completely with the Thatcher. That was really good. And I believe my chat's letting me know that Renshiro actually has a Claymore, so there are no breaching charges. I'll be interested to see where Renshiro puts that. I think he puts it at the top of Dragon Stairs. There's a lot of argument that Claymores on stairs are just a mere sound cue. And if the flank is going to happen, they could just shoot it or go past or whatever. And if you're on Dragon Stairs already or on Dragon Balcony, you're going to see them instantly. So I don't know whether or not a breaching charge may have been more effective, etc. Especially when you start walking up and they know that the initiation wall is going to be soft. So I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm not sure whether or not breaching charges would have been more effective on Renshiro. Now again, this top floor setup from Chaos is wasted almost half the round. Half the round being wasted, and Chaos are entire player down. So I'm not sure what's taking BDS so long, but they're giving Chaos a heck of a lot of time. And this has allowed Redgroove to run around downstairs as much as he wants, because this is a complete east top floor push. The pre-fires from Shaiko are brilliant. That's exactly what he needs to do to get access. And this tiny little line of sight, mind you, that's a pixel. You can see a mere pixel. So Chaos know that this angle exists against them now, but into the future, I don't know how terrified they're actually going to be of one pixel of their body showing. They could not have accounted for this in scrims. You cannot account for this tiny one pixel that Shaiko's been able to spot out and headshot you through. Just extraordinary. The EMP comes out to, I believe, allow Rafael to open the wall. Redgroove, who I believe was on a flanking, something like that, because he was downstairs near Yellow Stairs. So quite possibly LM's taking him out as a result of that. And I'm not sure what Rafael was doing. He knew that those holes were open behind him, but he was in a super precarious position anyway. Secretly just gets to pick people off one by one. I'm not sure why. And I don't know what the thought process was going to be. And I don't know if these holes were here previous to the round starting or to the action phase. So if these holes weren't here and they were just made afterwards, then that's awesome. That's a really great adaptation. You've lost control of cache and now you're losing control of vault. Sweet, back your hold up even further and just open up more lines of sight. I really don't know if that was pre-open or not. I would have to check that. But either way, they had to have known that with these lines of sight open and no one pressuring up yellow or into cafe, that someone would be standing there. They had to have known. Again, AUG shots being missed from the Wamai. Not sure what that's about, but goes without saying, he definitely missed those shots. And now a 2v1. 40 seconds left, he has no smokes left. Now, BDS won that round, but they didn't win it convincingly. Did not win it convincingly whatsoever. I wasn't convinced by that. Both those Vulcan shields are still there. That ADS is still there, so I take it back. That ADS actually didn't even get destroyed by the EMP. So I'm not sure where that EMP actually went off now. I actually gave Renshiro the benefit of the doubt. I actually thought he put it on at the start of the double doors. He didn't. So interesting that all this utility stayed up And the only thing they were able to do was open one breach from vault side open. And they were able to win just off gun skill there. Just off Chaos peeking. So I want to put a lot of emphasis that this hold that Chaos is doing is superior. It is the superior hold. It is the superior setup. Their execution of it sometimes is a little sloppy. They get overly aggressive when they don't need to. Their setup actually promotes them being really safe if they wanted to be. And then taking engagements when BDS or their opponents move up closer and they're able to just go bang, you're dead. Because you have to watch too many angles when you move up into cache and vault and you open that vault wall. You now have to watch a lot of angles. And good luck doing that when you've got defenders from multiple angles everywhere. So just because Chaos lost that, I would argue they were too aggressive with their setup. It was unnecessary for them to be that aggressive. Obviously, we had the initial jump out player who got killed. I don't mind jump outs. A lot of people ask me my opinion on jump outs. I think they can be really handy. They can take people off guard. They can show who has intel and who doesn't, and who deserves to sort of be taken off the board because they're not prepared, that they may not be safe on that rappel, and they may not be safe holding an angle on one window, etc. So I kind of like them, but they're not something you can rely on every round. They're not something you can turn around and go, oh, in order to combat this, we're going to jump out. There's so many things to combat a jump out. You know, you got air jabs, you got claymores, you got a person physically watching it, like you see on Consulate. People actually stand all the way out near the truck, and they just watch the jump out, and then you go to jump out, you're dead. So it's countered so easily that it's just not something that people rely on as part of their default strat. A 2-1, not bad. Theme Park has been considered a defended sided map just purely out of the opportunity for sites like Armory to just be locked down, and it's so incredibly difficult to get in. So we've made this like prejudgment that Theme Park will be defender sided, but we are seeing some attacking setups and some attacking success that you would otherwise think not possible, just because we're starting to see how you can manipulate the map, etc. Again, Chaos gets to go Armory now. And this time they swapped the Wamai for a Valkyrie. Why did they swap the Wamai? I'll give you two reasons. One, the Wamai can't hit their shots. I'm not blaming the player. As I said, I saw in multiple other games Wamais with the org just not hitting their shots. Like something's wrong with the gun, like it's defective or something. People just aren't able to hit shots with it. I don't know why. So the Wamai's gun was defective, we'll say. And also the magnets were being circumvented. In fact, none of the magnets were even, I think maybe throughout those 3 rounds, only one of them got activated. The rest really didn't do anything. So, the Wamai wasn't helpful. They were being circumvented. They were being EMP'd. They were not helpful. So instead, what they've decided to do is go with a Valkyrie. That's great, because I know BDS don't run the IQ very often. So it gives them the opportunity to run a little bit more intel, which is something they've been lacking. Again, you see pretty much the same setup. And this again. So this time they don't put the shotguns in there. Again, probably not super relevant. A Valkyrie cam will go downstairs into maintenance. A Lems will drone it and give the call to his teammates as to where it is. Bit of a shame that his cam got droned so quickly. But of course, pretty much the same setup we saw before. You can see Shate misses out on a Lems drone there. But that's okay overall. And you can see that Renault's actually tried to do the spawn peek. I'll bring it back for you. A lot of people who don't know the spawn peek, you probably will know the spawn peek. You just open up the little part of this barricade here, and you can hold your line of sight all the way down near spawn. Now, this spawn peek, super popular. Why? Because literally, once you run out from here, The one window or door that you can see are sort of, other than Gong, which you actually need to go further for that line of sight to see. That line's a little bit crazy. That line of sight to see is this window. That is the predominant window to spawn peek from on this map. So if you're worried about spawn peeks, it will be that window. And they spot him out doing that, and they pre-fire it, and away Reynolds goes. No need to be too overly aggressive. He actually took a really passive stance on that particular spawn peek, so he wasn't actually really in any danger. And drones come zooming through Gong, etc. This was the counter I wanted BDS to do. I spoke about this in the first round, is that they were so focused on top floor and taking top floor when it was actually unnecessary. They could not be shot from above in Throne because there was no vertical breachable options above Throne. There was only soft breach above Armory side. And almost you will never see an Armory side plant because the predominant rooms to open are either maintenance and or barrels. So you wouldn't even need to worry. The top floor hold is almost irrelevant if you just go straight for sight. And this is what this setup is looking like. So now you have to see Chaos's superior top floor hold and how that responds to a straight on sight attack like this. Looking for those Valk cams. Surely Alems calls the one out in maintenance. And this is where we finally get to see the default. What is now considered the default push onto Armory for attackers. Okay? You have, and I'm going to point this out very clearly here, if you're wondering what a default push onto Armory room is and how to be the most effective as an attack, you have your flashes. Okay? You have the opportunity to break the top, and 90% of the time it's already broken because defenders will have their C4s waiting in hand to throw over the top and hope that they land or snag a free kill, or 2 or 3, of which I've seen before. Now, this is like, I cannot put it any other way. This is the most default way to push. There is no other way to push. Flashes come out to cook the ADSs. I argue the only way to combat a grenade sailing over the top or a concussion sailing over the top once the ADSs is cooking, have been cooked, I should say, is to ADS trick. Now, a lot of people don't ADS trick. A lot of people want my trick these days, which I think is cool. Doesn't matter how you do it, kind of thing. But if you ADS trick this, you're more than likely always going to be able to get at least one grenade. You might be able to zap at least one exothermic and get away with it. And on a site like Armory, if you take one of the exothermics, you've done a big job, because that means they can only open one side. And that's huge. That is huge. If you take one exothermic on this site, it is huge. That is why bandit tricking and Kaid tricking on this site is so important. It must be the default. It is the default. There is no other way to do it. There is simply no other way to hold Throne. Unless you want to give it up and hold from barrels or something ridiculous like that, I don't see how else you would do it. This is the only way to hold Throne. Shiko will throw the flashes over the top. Let's slow this down, ladies and gentlemen, because I have watched this 4 times and I can't work out if he shot it or if his teammate shot it. But that was a C4. That was the first C4 to sail over the top. All right, so what we're going to do is playback speed. We're going to 0.25 it. No. He hip fired that. He R4C hip fired that C4 midair. Now, I want to say very clearly that C4 very well should have, at the very least, downed Shaiko. Instead, the man just goes and flicks to it, hip firing. Now, okay, we understand he has superior aim, he is a mechanical god, etc. I just don't want to downplay that was the right move from Chaos. I don't want them to think that, oh, wow, someone was watching for it. No, no one was watching for it. The man just, I don't know, he's just better. He's just better. So, there you go. Does he have laser sight? Is the question in chat. No, the man's does not. No, he does not. He doesn't even have laser sight, ladies and gentlemen. He is just a god among gods, or god of gods, when it comes to mechanical skill in Rainbow Six Siege. So, I don't know how else to put it for you all, then that C4 should have done way more damage than it did. Yeah. Again, props to Chaos. They got super unlucky. Shaiko, I'm not going to say he's got lucky because he actually did aim for that. But yes. So now they're prepping, and I will back it up 5 seconds. Now, and I believe it's the Valkyrie by the shape of the body. They're prepping another set of people here for C4s. I know what that looks like, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to delete that real quick. And actually, someone's asking me to go back and replay that. And I actually will, for the benefit of the YouTube and, of course, of the stream. On YouTube, you can replay this yourself. But we're going to replay this at 0.25 just for you guys again, just so you can see. There we go. So just for us to have another moment of absolute amazement, we just replay that a second time for you guys, and it wasn't Shaiko. Someone in my chat saying it wasn't Shaiko. Watch it again. It was. I didn't see any other tracer bullets. Did you, or am I blind? Or was that tracer bullets behind? There's no one right behind him. There's a LEMS. Did a LEMS shoot it midair? There's no way a LEMS from behind that box can see that C4. Unless you're telling me something even more unbelievable than what we just saw. Unless you're telling me that a LEMS shooting the barricade open accidentally shot the C4 that Shaiko also almost accidentally hip fired. Are you, ladies and gentlemen, are you telling me that that unbelievably, not only did we just think that Shaiko shot that hip fire, that actually his teammate who wasn't even aiming at it shot it? This is going on Twitter, ladies and gentlemen. After this, I am going to clip that, and it's going on Twitter because unbelievable. Unbelievable. I don't know what the truth is. I don't know how else. This is 1080. This is as much as I can make it, as clear as I can make it. And I just don't know. He shoots the barricade open. Shaiko shot it. Shaiko shot it. No, he didn't. I don't... He shot it. I think Shaiko shot it. I believe Shaiko shot that. You know why? Because right where it hit is where his bullets are actually showing up. Turn on the sound. Roger. Let's go. We're going back with the sound. We're going to have to go normal speed to hear that normally. That was him. That had to have been Shaiko. You can count the points at the end of the round? Yes, I'm more than happy to do point counting. Yes, we can actually bullet / listen to the mag of the Zofia to tell. Alem said stop shooting. It's real close, ladies and gentlemen. It's real close. You guys can't hear the game sound? Yes, I'm realizing that now. Go again. I need to put speakers on because I don't have it set. All right, let's go.
Those angles first. But it may take time to really figure out all those angles first.
"100% Shaiko" is what we're getting in chat. Whatever it was amazing. We need 10% speed. It sounds ridiculous with 10% speed. We'll go 5. Like, we'll go... Ladies and gentlemen, I don't know what to tell you. I really don't know what to tell you. But I have a strong feeling Shaiko shot that. Strong feeling. So, we will continue. But, yeah. I will try and point count at the end of the round. Yeah. That's amazing. The C4 comes out and misses. So that's another C4 that misses. And Vito does then end up peeking once he's used it. Now, this is default. This is default. Either you stand there with a grenade, throw it over, kill the person bandit tricking, or at least make them run away, or you can cuss. There is only 2 ways, sorry, 3, and they didn't bring the Capitao, so it doesn't matter. There's only 3 ways to get rid of a bandit tricker. You fire them, which you can over the top, you grenade them, or you can cuss them. That is it. That is it. That wall gets opened up. Now here's the problem. They are halfway through the round and they've only got 1 wall open. And when I say only, that's good. That's great. They've used all the utility they need to. Perfect. Now you have a huge problem with Armory. Huge. Is that if you've only got 1 wall open, you now have 1. And actually, I'm going to draw this more clearly for you. Here's your breach. Now, you want to play it here most of the time because the throne will cover you, okay? You have to worry about the people behind throne, here and here, when they can peek from those areas. You have to worry about the people all the way over on Armory side, of which there are often 2 angles that you can hold from Armory side as you run in. You have so many angles to worry about, and you have no smokes. And you have no way of getting in and killing these people behind Armory. There's no verticality above them. So you almost 99% of the time need to open up, and I'll delete that. On the other side, there is barrel wall. Now you either need to open up that, or you need to go over and open up the armory wall over on yellow stairs. Why? Because if you open up only one wall, you are essentially just opening up another door. That's all you're doing. You're just opening up another door. You're not cutting off lines of sight. You're opening up another door, another murder hole for the defenders to use. If you cut off their ability to hold the lines of sight on the other side, then yes, you get free access to it. But at this point, all you've done is open up one extra big door, and you don't really have much else. Now, there is, and someone is pointing out, there is a hatch on connector all the way over on the connector near arcade entry. Now, that hatch is really handy to watch the connector. You can also see down over near this barrel wall. You can actually see onto the barrel wall. You can also grenade over and underneath and kill anyone who's there. You wouldn't be able to bandit trick if someone was laying down on this connector hatch. You wouldn't be able to do it very effectively. So there is multiple opportunities to stop someone bandit tricking that wall, especially if you still had some bandits from Shate. But it's irresponsible as a team to think that you could just open maintenance and plant, especially without smokes. So this is where things start to get really hairy for BDS, because they actually don't really have the control that they think that they have. Why are you refreshing on me? Don't do this. Damn. We're going to refresh, ladies and gentlemen. We had a playback error. All right. Cool. So, and this is what I mean. As defenders, like, you can hide right behind there. That's not penetrable, so it's fine. You've got Renault's running around the site wildly. He can do whatever he wants because all they've done is open up another wall. There's still barb on that door, still. Like, Smoke's running around with his back to the breach. That's how little he cares about the breach. That's literally how little he cares. That's how little control you have by opening up only one wall on this side. Now, you still have one impact from a Lems. You still have one impact. Should have been used to get rid of the barb on the door, but whatever. And then, of course, Shate is able to just stand up behind Throne or lay down and prone behind it. You can actually get a line of sight onto Dragon Door. And that's possibly where Renshiro died. I didn't see. But he's super safe behind there. And look at this. Peeks up, grabs the head of a Lems as well. Yeah, he did shoot him on Dragon Door. And of course, and we spoke about this before, that's why Chaos have the rotate into drug, that tiny little crouch hole. God, my brain, I need more coffee. The tiny crouch hole that they have from the hallway into drug, that also has a line of sight onto the arcade door into the connector, is there because... where has Red Groove been this whole entire game? He still has a C4 in hand. The man's didn't even use his C4. He didn't even have to. He was sitting in drug the whole time waiting. Just waiting. Absolutely probably doing nothing but sitting on cams and giving intel. So that's how well established Chaos were, is that even when no one pushed top floor into their top floor hold, it didn't matter because they still had every bit of denial that they needed. And BDS did not open up enough walls. Now, they had a minute left. What I believe they wanted to try and do after that was come around to yellow and open up yellow. Open up armory side. Then, as a defensive side, you're really, excuse my French, you're fucked then. Because there is almost nowhere to sit on site with those two walls open. You're really stuck. You're stuck. You're stuck in the corner on the right. You're stuck in the corner on the left. You can't peek anyone who runs behind Throne. You can't peek anyone. Okay? The lines of sight would be ridiculous. But it doesn't matter because Red Groove has been sitting like twiddling his thumbs for ages in drug and bathroom by himself and hasn't been pushed at all. Now, I believe RX, Ironics, did go upstairs for some vertical play. Again, to get really good vertical play, you actually need two people above in whilst you're opening up the soft breach. You actually need someone else with you there to help peek and everything like that, because it's such a small area that you can open up as soft breach above armory that a C4 can collect you like that. And you also can't sledge it and look at the same time. So you have to sledge a few areas and then rotate between those holes so that you don't get shot from underneath as well. So there's a lot. When you're talking about armory and throne, there's a lot you need to consider, and you need to commit to getting two sets of walls open. One is not enough. Unless you've got smokes, I will accept if you've got smokes or you've got grenades to get the person behind the barrier on throne room. Once you've opened up one side, you can clear him out by grenading. But otherwise, two walls. Always. Now, of course, Ironics has to go for kills. 1v5, clutch, ace would be extraordinarily hard to ask of a singular person. And Chaos are just, like, I wonder how long Reynolds has just been laying in armory for now, just waiting for them to come in. See that grenade that he had as well? And a lot of people argue with me about this. I argue that if the other team, and obviously they don't have a maestro, if you're going up against the bandit tricker and you have the opportunity to grenade the bandit tricker, why don't you take that over concussing him? If you have the opportunity to get a free kill, I'm talking a free kill, you've cooked all the ADSs, you know he's still there bandit tricking, why not, instead of concussing him, why not grenade him? Why not try and go for the free kill? Ironics didn't even use any of his grenades. And ladies and gentlemen, if you're watching this on YouTube later, I actually have the coach of Chaos in my chat right now. Shout out to you, Sirid. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful to get to go over this game that you've given us, these strats that you've been able to display for us on Theme Park. Thank you so much. Couldn't have asked for a better team to have given us the very first rendition of Theme Park. So thank you so much. But obviously, guys, what happened here is that Chaos were prepared for that maintenance push, and they were also prepared for a barrel push, right? So it didn't matter which wall that you had Raphael go to. They were prepared for it. Obviously, that hipfire C4 shot onto that Shaiko got was just unbelievable. But let's assume someone was watching for it and shot it anyway, etc. Whatever. We have to understand that that on Theme Park, Armory and Throne Room can only work one of two ways. As we spoke about before, opening up the two walls, or you help get vertical sight above Armory, open up Armory side, and then go behind the wall and plant there with people holding lines of sight. So what Chaos have done is said, we can hold this, we can C4 things, we can bandit trick, but there is a counter to the bandit tricking. There is an absolute counter to the bandit tricking. And the fact that Ironics walks at the end of this round with 2 grenades in his pocket is irresponsible and selfish, because what needed to have happened is once they had flashed over the top, Ironics needed to have stood there, bounced that grenade off the roof, straight down onto Shate, and Shate would have died. Shate would have died. No doubt in my mind. Okay? So always I argue, and this is my personal opinion and argument, is that you should grenade over the top rather than concuss. Because if you can get a free kill rather than just concuss someone, why would you not do that? Why would you not opt for that option? Okay, so whilst I am praising Chaos tenfold for their setups, they didn't ADS trick, which I would have liked to have seen them do. They should have. You can ADS trick. There's a pole on the southeastern side of Throne that is far enough away from the EMP that you can place ADSs on the pole and it does not get EMP'd, and you can ADS trick there. So had Chaos done that, I would have said they had a perfect strat. C4s, bandit tricking, ADS tricking, and people holding from drug with rotates. Couldn't ask for a better setup. Could not. Instead, there was a little bit of wish-wash on the attack. We didn't get to see the full outcome of what would have happened if they had been able to take that initial kill, rotate around to barrels, get that wall open as well. There's a lot of what-ifs. But I'm pointing out what we got to see here today. And that's literally it. Now, that's the risk you run as well. And I know there was a 1v4 or a 1v5 to begin with. It doesn't really matter. It didn't matter so much that they didn't have top floor control, because even if you're on Dragon balcony, you can't really do much for maintenance without coming down. You can make vertical holes above and stuff like that, but it's super obvious, it's super loud, etc. So it's okay to go straight for the wall and everything like that, and you can have one person try and watch it down the end near gong or something like that, or yellow stairs. But it's not critical, I believe, to have top floor control for throne room if you're going to go for a throne room plan. If you're going for armory, that's a little bit sketchy. You got to worry about the hatch, you got to worry about vertical holes, etc. But for this one in particular, this doesn't do much if people are all sitting in maintenance, for example. Now we go on to round 5, and I will get my notes up, ladies and gentlemen. Let's see what I have here. Oh, yes. How are you meant to get armory wall then? If you want to get armory wall, you can pop open the top. Just the same as you would with maintenance and barrels. You can grenade over it, you can flash over it, etc., etc. Of course, if you've already got one wall and you've used your utility, you don't have the opportunity to get the other wall because you don't have utility to get rid of that utility. So I get that. You might get there and go, oh, I can't. But it's very unlikely that an individual, once one wall is open, is able to continue to safely bandit trick. You wouldn't be able to safely bandit, especially they had Ironics above with the sledge. You couldn't bandit trick armory with the sledge above. You can't do it. You would die instantly. So that would be the wall I would go for, with a little bit of vertical control. A lot of people are asking about Maverick. Why not Maverick? Why not Maverick? Maverick's great. He's slow, but he's great. You can softball it. You can easily do it. A lot of teams don't opt for it that much because there are options like concussing. There are options like grenading. So wouldn't you just rather bring a thermite and do that and get it over and done with and have a big line of sight open than risk a Maverick against the wall, risk a C4 over the top, risk someone opening up, above you during this time and shooting you with your torch out and you can't respond? It's a lot to think about. When you have other options. If there was no other options, then cool. But there are so many other options for this wall, so why pick one of the weaker options? You got to lay down. If you did it in maintenance, for example, you got to lay down next to maintenance door where there's an entire hallway and anyone could just quick peek you and you've got a torch in your hand. Not my favorite pick if I'm putting together a lineup to help deal with that wall. There's a lot of hydrates in chat. I'm still sipping my coffee, I should say, so thank you. God, it's gonna be a long night, ladies and gentlemen. We've been going for an hour and a half already. For a game that didn't even last that long. Alright, now we get to see Bunk Daycare. I would argue the second best site of this. And we've seen this before, so. This I don't understand. Like, they know that BDS bring a Thatcher every time. I don't know what that's about. I don't understand why you'd even waste a mute there. I really don't. Like, if you know someone's going to Thatcher something anyway, is it just because you want to get rid of the EMP? Like, is that the only reason you mute it? I I don't understand. I personally don't understand why. Unless you are purposefully wasting EMPs, or your fingers crossing that all your setup over here wastes all the EMPs. I mean, that's a big fingers crossed. That's a huge fingers crossed. I understand muting this 100% because if someone repels up on the south side and tries to Habana it open, well, I mean, Habana is banned, but if someone tries to get in and say open this wall instead and then run in behind the bomb and plan, then yeah, I get it. Mute that wall, that's fine. But this doesn't make sense to me. Now, remember we saw previous Chaos didn't reinforce these two walls because it actually wasn't necessary. Oh, and Renault's stops. Yeah, I don't understand that. Did he forget where one of his reinforcements was meant to go? Wait, let me count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2. Wait. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Maybe 7, 8 on control. Three, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And that's the 10th because they're not reinforcing this anymore. Okay, I'm going to make that assumption. No, they didn't reinforce that. Where did those reinforcements go? Okay, there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then there's the 10th. Okay. All right. My worry is that open. That is open up there, isn't it? I don't know. It is open. Okay. I would have used the 10th here. Why? Because if you're closing all of this off and you don't plan on contesting it except for one Vulcan shield, you're now doing a turtle. This is clearly a turtle setup now. There's no rotates, there's nothing. Then you should reinforce this. Yeah. Yep. They should not have opened that. They should have reinforced it. We will see whether or not that comes back to bite them in the butt. But I think there was a little bit of confusion there when they swapped from the extended strategy to the turtle hold instead. I also wonder if BDS have any other pushes except into Cash and into Gong. I wonder if this is just how they default deal with it. Oh, okay. No, I see. What they've done, ladies and gentlemen, is they've still committed to the extend. They've committed to the extend with a rotate out onto yellow platform. And the person on the Vulcan shields, which should be Renault's with the TCSG ACOG, will be able to rotate out double doors of waiting. He doesn't need the initiation rotate. So they've reinforced it. They've said if you need to fall back, you can fall back through the double doors which you've set your Vulcan up. And the person in Volt can rotate out on yellow platform. That's why they've kept them there. Okay. It's like an extended fake hold. It's like they don't want to use all their utility and reinforcements for the extension, so they just kind of do a half-assed extension, and if it's not working out for them or they don't take any picks, or maybe they're trying to take a pick and then they're just going to instantly rotate back. It's like a I want to turtle, but I want to see if I can get a pick to start off with. That's how they've set up. And everything's opened up. Everything. They've even opened up the wall that they started thermiting. And look at this. Ironics gets straight. He knows that they're not holding it. It was such a waste. It was such a waste of... And I believe he'll even be able to shoot the Vulcan shield as well. that was set up in the hallway. Yeah, see, they moved all the Vulcan shields back, everything. Everything. Yeah. There's no way for Vito to know exactly where they are. There is no cameras available to them. Unless, of course, Red Groove took a bulletproof. I didn't see him set one up. He did, didn't he? But I think that's on site. Default cam, bulletproof. Okay. So there is a bulletproof on site. That's just so random. That's just insanely random. And look at that. This is what I spoke about before. Why open this? Why give this to the attackers if you are not going to use it? Like, why? I don't understand why. And by the way that Reynolds was reinforcing, it's like they didn't know the setup that they wanted to actually do. They didn't know whether or not they wanted to they didn't know whether they wanted to turtle or they wanted to extend. They kind of half extended with the Vulcan shields and then kind of half didn't, and then opened up rotates, which you shouldn't open if you're not extending. And so this being open for Shaiko is really dangerous. Now, the casters pointed out during the game that Shartay must have been sitting there and died to the exothermic. No. Well, without a doubt in my mind, Shartay tried to bandit trick that. And he must have misheard which panel it was and committed, or was like half a second too late on his bandit charge placement. He wasn't just sitting there. Okay, he would have tried to bandit trick that. So I want to make that very clear. He would have been trying to bandit trick that, committed, and died whilst committing. Now, this is the bit where it goes downhill for BDS. And I know I said I really would only mostly talk about Chaos's setup, but I want to point out here that the setup that Chaos has now is weak. It's a very weak setup. And yes, I do want to put a quick asterisk there. There's a couple of people in chat saying, "Oh, I'm a bit new to the game. What do I mean by extending?" I mean extending your setup. So you could just reinforce off the site, reinforce off everything around you, and that would be called a turtle hold. And you would be called turtling. You can extend your hold by opening up rotates and pushing your players out further, and that's what I mean by extending. So Chaos clearly is masterful at extending on this particular map, and when they tried to change it up, it got a little hairy for them, and it looked a little bit unprepared. So now what we're seeing is Alem's doing the right thing. Rappelling up on break room windows. I was thinking of the room's name, break room. Rappelling up on the break room windows and giving secretly some hell. Now, I can't see which side the rotates on. Usually the rotates on the east side of this wall. But there's no need for secretly to be so concerned about watching this breach, because there's two people on A side who should be able to see across through the rotate if anyone runs in. So secretly could just unfortunately just play time with Alems and at least take one of the BDS members out, essentially, because they're not able to help because they're so worried about secretly sitting there and break, and the rest of the Chaos players could deal with the hallway. Now, watch what unfolds now. Renshiro takes out Renaults. He was on A site. He must have peeked through the rotate and unfortunately got taken off guard. Shiko gets Vito, who goes out in the hallway for some reason. My understanding was they knew Shiko was there. I don't know why you would leave A. There was no need to leave A. No one was pushing arcade. No one was pushing cafe arcade. No one was pushing arcade stairs, arcade balcony, or upper. No one was pushing it. So the need to leave A was null. The need to move out from that side was null. Finally, Red Groove is able to take out Rafale, who runs onto site to plant, doing the right thing. Unfortunately, he doesn't have the cover that he should have had, but of course, Shiko then makes up for it by getting the refrag. So he didn't have the line of sight, no problems. He refragged it pretty quickly. Easy. It's a 3v1. Now, what shocks me was the players who either peaked, and I don't know what happened to Renaults, so I can't say for sure. He may have just gotten literally gunned. You know, ACOG v like holographic or whatever. You know, of course, he had trouble. But it's unbeknownst to me why you would come out in this hallway. You already had a doc here who could essentially hold this angle over box and cover the waiting room double doors. Or he could run down onto yellow stairs and hold a head peek from yellow stairs. So, yes, okay, the vault rotation was open, so that made it scarier, made it harder to hold, etc. But there's no need to leave A. You must focus on the fact that they want to plant. They must plant. They are attackers. So wait for them to come in and then kill them as they're coming in from A site, because you have rotates. You had people on site with shotguns who could have opened more lines of sight from A. I don't know what the thinking was there. I think it lost Chaos the round. Shiko was on point with his shots anyway. Yeah, nice. That's really good. It's questionable. That was a questionable hold. And I stated it from the very beginning of the round, it didn't look prepared. It didn't look like they had that was their initial plan for that setup. It's like they were so concerned that they would be counter adapted with their extended setup that they tried to change their setup to something that wasn't the setup that they're used to scrimming with. And that's when it all got confused. It all got, yeah. And maybe if Shata had been able to effectively bandit trick, they would have won the round. Sometimes bandit tricking wins the entire round. I've seen it happen time and time again. So there's a lot of what ifs in what I'm saying, ladies and gentlemen. And now we see the very last defense from Chaos. And they're going to give it a go again. And we're going to see whether or not they decide to change up how they do it this time. Are they more prepared this time? And I can see Renault's running. And they've said, boys, I don't know why we tried to change up what we usually do. Let's go back to what we usually do and do it better. And that's what you should do. Make tiny adaptations to your usual setup to adapt to what your opponent is bringing you. If you have a default setup, ladies and gentlemen, and you've tried it and tried and tried in scrims, and then you come into an official game and you're having problems, even though it usually works, just take the bits that are not working, aka I'm getting grenaded, my Vulcan shield's getting destroyed, someone's repelling south, and make adaptations. Do not change your entire setup because you go, oh, well, they're not playing the way I need them to for this setup. No. Stop. Stop yourself. Your setup is good. You just need to plug the holes for this opponent, and that's called counter adaptations. And if you cannot make tiny counter adaptations, then you cannot be an effective team. You'll be a team that constantly changes your strategies. You won't do well. This is why we saw Team Empire, known as the Russian machine, when they first popped into the Pro League scene, absolutely dominate because they did the same thing over and over and over again. Why? Because if it ain't broke, it don't need fixing. I don't know what the friggin' saying is. I just forgot. We've been going for couple of hours, ladies and gentlemen, straight. But if it ain't broke, don't fix it, don't change it, right? Just plug the tiny holes that it has and you will be able to do well. This is why we saw before. They got rid of the Wamai and they bring the Jaeger. This time they're going to do both. These are the tiny incremental changes Chaos are making to say, hang on, we are struggling with these grenades, or hang on, we're struggling with these EMPs, or whatever it is that they might be struggling with. They're making the adaptations. And they're only slight, they're only little. So overall, it's pretty damn easy to be absolutely effective with your strategy if you can do tiny adaptations. And that's what this is. And this is why I do want to shout out to Chaos, is because they are making those tiny adaptations that you need as a team while still keeping the skeleton, the bones of their strategy. And the bones of their strategy is this waiting room / initiation / control room hold. And I like it. It works. It's a good strategy. Don't give up on it just because BDS found a hole in your strategy. Just plug the hole and move on. You know what I mean? And that's why I like this round. This round was one of my favorite rounds. And I there's one particular reason why this round is my favorite round as well, because when I say find those counter adaptations, I'll show you why in this round I say that. So again, we're seeing the same bunks hold we saw in the first round, or when they did that top floor hold with Armory. Super predictable, but works. Now, this is my favorite round by Chaos. My favorite round that I've seen on Theme Park so far. Really, really like this, so you'll see why. And as per usual, BDS, they're going to take their top dragon control. They're going to take their control room control. They're going to do what they need to get over. But same thing from BDS, same thing from Chaos. So we've seen this round before. We've seen it. What is he? Oh, the casters must have been talking about something. Here we go. Let's get into cash. Let's try and take this control Shaiko. We've done it multiple rounds before. We usually get challenged from bathroom and then from vault, and that angle's opened up. So be careful and blah, blah, blah. Same old. Now, this is where it gets fun. And I actually really like, there's a magnet here from 1Y. I actually really like that because even though it's in quite an obvious spot, Shaiko's actually missed it. Now, again, Chaos has been able to waste half the round with this top floor setup with those two Vulcan shields, the lines of sight open, the reinforcements over on Vault Wall to cash. This is great. This is perfect. The same setup, doing it again, but trying to be better. Now, this time, Red Groove, instead of doing his usual dock, standing in bathroom, peeking over aggressively, he is now playing a passive-aggressive angle. I spoke to this effect several rounds ago about how he's being too aggressive. Now he's playing perfectly. Now you missed that, didn't you? Yeah? A lot of people argue that teams like Team Empire, who are hyper predictable, can be countered very easily. There was a time when I was with Penta and I made that point to my team that when we were the only team to beat Team Empire, I said, the way that we can do this, boys, is by looking at their major crutches, their major predictabilities, and trying to counter those specifically. We don't have to change a lot of our gameplay, but if we counter their crutches specifically, we can beat them. Now, a crutch for them was droning. And not really a crutch. It was a major part of their push when they were on attack, for example, for Team Empire. And I said to the boys, I want mute on every side. Every single side, I want it blocking every single doorway. I don't want them to know where anyone is. I don't want them to know any piece of friggin' information. And this was way before Mozzie was in play, etc. And I said, I want a mute on every site, and I don't care how you do it, but put it on every door you damn can where someone's going to be playing in that room, and deny them that information, because that is their predictability, is that if they can get the intel, they'll run in and they'll gun. But if they don't have the intel, they stall. And that's where we can get our time on our hands. And that was the one time that we were the only ones to defeat Team Empire. I'm really proud of that, actually. That was something that I spent a lot of time watching and analyzing and working on tenfold. And here, what Chaos have done, and I don't know who did it. You know, your coach is in your team speak with you, whatever, right? Whether or not one of the other players said it, whether or not it was Vito himself who said it, I don't know. But they've gone, guys, BDS come into cash every round. Almost every single round, bar one, they've come into cash. Why don't we just put a C4 below properly? Rather than when Vito ran down there wildly at another time, let's actually properly put one in there. So you can see he looks down there, but no one actually has that control, that dragon control. And so Vito's actually below right here. And what I've noticed in this new season is that sounds on roof above you, on a soft breachable roof above you, are really obvious. You can pinpoint where a lot of people's footsteps are. So Vito's waiting there silently. No one's droned him. No one knows he's there. Even though on a previous round, he did C4 underneath. And Chaos have done a tiny counter adaptation of putting someone below with the C4 and waiting and throwing it directly up onto Shaika. It's a tiny change. It was almost a risk-free change because they had never pushed below. So after, 5 rounds, you can be pretty set in your head that you would be rather safe below with a C4. He gets to maximize that and boom, gone. In fact, I'm surprised it didn't collect another BDS player at the same time. So there's one counter adaptation they've made. Another counter adaptation, they've asked Redgroove to be more passive and hold Vault because he's the only one in Vault. They asked him to stop pushing up aggressively on Bathroom, or he's made this self-assessment and done that. Suddenly, Alems is able to get Shate, and he was on the Wamai. Again, I guess the org is broken. I don't know. The org is broken for every player that plays Wamai, okay? Renaults was able to get Rafale, though. And I believe he didn't get the wall. Okay. Oh no, and I didn't notice this the first time I watched it, ladies and gentlemen. Rafale died there last time because there's holes in this wall over here. And again, he's died there. He didn't learn his lesson. Is that Vulcan shield still there? Has he still got this line of sight? Because if he does, BDS have given away a free round. Now, I spoke to the smoke being in initiation a few rounds ago. I said that the reason the smoke needs to be the one to hold this is that you only have 2 places to sit. One behind control room desk, or you must leave the room and go out into Dragon Hallway. So you can literally tank this person with smoke grenades if they're tossed correctly. And that's why he remains effective in this position. I don't know why he's trying to... There we go, that's a better smoke. And Renshiro's tanking it. He tanked 50 full HP. Had those other 2 smokes been thrown effectively, Renshiro probably would have been downed and effectively taken off the board had they been better thrown. Way too aggressive there from Secretly. All he needed to do was bounce hop and throw those smokes and try and get as much health taken off as he could, and instead he tried to challenge. Unnecessary amount of aggression there from Chaos again. But here we're seeing Redgroove do a great job. Really great job here. This passiveness, wasting so much time. And even he now has the opportunity to rotate out. They've called for a rotate out and there's less than a minute left. And like that, Vulcan Shield finally used for a kill. Vito gets Ironics and the round's over. That's my favorite round of this entire map. If you want to go watch a round where I think the defensive side played the utmost with the utmost skill and the utmost amount of respect for their strap, for their setups, then that's the round. You want to go, how do I set up on this map? And you want to steal this, you know, frame for frame, steal it, take it, use it as yours, you and your friends, or you and your stack, or go for, or CC, I don't care. Use it and make those small counter adaptations to your team. Now, if they do happen to push the other side, of course, you need another setup. You need another setup that accounts for a full cafe pusher or for a full arcade push or whatever, right? But this round showcases what I believe to be one of the most meta, or soon to be the meta setup, where you start to build your setup off of waiting room and you spread out that way. I want this to be the meta because I believe strongly that this setup is the superior one for sites like Bunk. That is my personal opinion. What I like about that ending kill cam was Renault's had possibly an easy shot onto the Thatcher. He was also less than 50 HP, but instead he went for the Vulcan Shield. And I like that because a player who thinks more about utility than kills is a player I like. Now we finally get to see BDS try their hand at defense. And this is the bit that worries me the most. They pick Lab as their first site. Lab. The site, I would argue, being one of the least viable out of this entire map, they pick as their first defensive site when they're 2 rounds down. That tells me that they believe this to be their strongest defensive side. And that's a lot of confidence you've got to have to pick a Lab first. Like, you got to... You have to think, there's 2 things you have to think. The attackers are more often than not going to assume that throne room will be the first defensive side. And as a result, they will almost guaranteed take a grenade, at least one set of grenades. Okay? And the people with grenades are often the soft breachers like Sledge, Buck, etc. They are the more preferred operators to take. So you're telling me that you pick Lab to, I don't know, throw them off, which wouldn't throw an attacking team off because they're going to bring a soft breacher anyway. And it doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Unless your setup is super superior, somehow your top floor hold and top floor setup doesn't even allow them to get in to do the soft breaching, then okay. But you'd need a lot of people up there, a lot of utility. It by the looks of the 6 pick, it looks like what their plan is going to be is to do a very heavy top floor hold with pulse below. Pulse below when they try and enter cafe, for example. That would be the number 1 place to push in from. And then like C4 them from underneath. Could have a Lems with you below as well for the second C4. So that's a very viable setup. Baiting people upstairs and then C4ing them from the side. A nice rotate into barrels there. So it does look like they're going to also do an extended setup. And by the reinforcements going up on top, the Vulcan Shield going down on upper arcade, it does look like they want to do an upstairs hold. Again, not a fan of mutes on walls. Not a fan when Thatcher's in play. Find it useless. I understand waste an EMP, blah, blah, blah. You're only going to open one, max 2 walls. So I don't understand why wasting one EMP would really do much damage. There is no maestro on the board. You don't need to disable any cameras. You don't need to do anything. So yes, if, wasting an EMP would be really useful because you've got evil eyes and everything like that, but you don't have anything else. So I don't really know what that is about. You need to bandit trick that wall if you really want it to stay closed. I love that Claymore because, it's so obvious. Now, what they don't realize below Cafe is that there is a pulse. And you can see that they tried to shoot through the roof at the Zofia. I'm not sure why they didn't just C4, but possibly saving the C4, I guess. Now, Drug Lab is difficult to push because you need to work out where you want to plant. I don't particularly like planting B because it can be very hard to hold post-plant. So that's why planting, and see that, like a barrel's hold there, what BDS was trying to do is set up like an outside in extended hold. But barrels is a super weak room. There's a hatch above, there's a window, there's a wall from armory. People can come in from arcade window. There's a lot of angles to worry about. And of course there's verticals above. I don't think they thought that Vito would come rappelling in on the south and then buck above. That's super specific, but that just happened to be one of the counters that they had there for the person in barrels. Now that they have the vertical control, this is very good. I'm not sure why you'd peek that, but I understand wanting to. I'm not sure why you would. They're not even in the room yet. But possibly the pressure from above from Vito is also giving them a pinch. Yeah, it is. There you go. Okay. So that verticality from Vito there on the upper arcade. Super strong. And of course, we see a little bit of brilliance from Shaiko as he almost manages to clutch out the round. But the thing about Lab is, and I spoke about before, is that they're so tight. The rooms are so tight. I don't like planting in drug room, which is the B-bomb, because it's really hard to hold post-plant, so it's not very favored. And then in that particular round, if they wanted to plant in the other site, all the defenders were there anyway. So it's a little bit confusing as to why you would pick lab first. I could see that they wanted to do an extended hold, and that's why they had on the other side of A site, they had the quad 90 wall open. They actually had all lines of sight open. They had someone playing barrels with a rotate, as we saw at the start of the round. And it's not enough. You can't just place one person in barrels and watch in on sight with the long lines of sight by themselves especially, and hope that that will pay dividends, because it just didn't. So not sure about that. Not sure why you would risk that solo player in barrels. I feel like that was the one corner piece of their setup that was really disappointing for me, because I would have rather have seen them held upstairs, because we know lab can be absolutely decimated, as Vito did it on his own. You know, he single-handedly opened up above and killed people. He actually didn't even really need help. So I would have rather have seen BDS do a top floor hold, you know, expend the resources upstairs and hold it that way and stop them from getting vertical control. Because even if they then jumped into drug or something like that, there's people on and safely in the other side to watch over to drug. So yeah, a lot of people have asked my opinion about what I think about them picking lab first. I think it was meant to throw off the attackers, but I don't think that their setup was taking into account the fact that lab 9 times out of 10 is most effectively taken with vertical control. And that's what Chaos did. There was really not a lot of contest on the top floor, and that let BDS down, I think. The second round of their defense, and I want to put a disclaimer here. I'm a huge BDS fan. I mean, if you saw me on the analyst desk at SI, I said I'm a huge BDS fan. I've always said this. I'm confused by initiation in second. It's like they're going back to front. Like, I rank the sites as Armory number 1, number 2 being Bunk, number 3 being Initiation, number 4 being Lab. That is the ranking of the sites, and there's quite a lot of people who would agree with me. And so with that in mind, it's almost like they're going from the worst side to the best, but they don't have the round count to do that. So they have to be confident with their setup, and their setup on lab for the particular push that Chaos did was inferior. And now going on to initiation, we need to see whether or not they've got a setup that works. I still think avoiding throne room is a dire mistake, because it can be so easily held. It can also be so easily countered. But a lot of people have played this in scrims and ranked agree that throne room is very frustrating as an attacker. And yes, again, ladies and gentlemen, I do have my Windows code waiting in my email. I just haven't gone through it. I've done a lot of content today and just prioritize my content over activating my Windows. So I will get to it, but not whilst I'm going through these analysis videos. Now, what BDS have done, what their setup here is to do pretty much the same shield setup. They've actually closed this line of sight off. Not sure why. I think it's to force them to come down the hallway or to open this up. That's fine. I don't know if they're going to play anyone actively in waiting room, or if that Vulcan shield's just there to sort of like, if someone does come down, they can shoot it. I don't know. So yeah, we will see. Oh, that's confusing. Ironics has Barb. There are a lot of rooms that are breachable from underneath or above, depending on your perspective, that you can see for. Vito showed it. I don't think barbed wire is more valuable than a C4. So interesting that he has barbed wire. Very interesting. This is extended across almost the entire top floor, but in the opposite way that Chaos did it. So now they're extending themselves into arcade. Oh, I love this round from Chaos because what was it, the previous round, or it had to have been the previous round, round 7, where Shartae or someone, whoever the Zofia was, droned Cafe and then droned arcade, saw someone in arcade and went straight into Cafe. Didn't pause, didn't stall, didn't nothing. So it's almost as if Chaos have this like mentality where like if you drone a room and it's empty and you see someone, go. You've got the intel, go, move in now. And they move so quickly. Once they've droned a room, the Zofia at the very least of Chaos, and I believe that continually is Shartae, he just gets in. He gets in the room really quickly. And you'll see them acting off intel extraordinarily quickly in this round. This is really nice to watch, actually. So they've spotted the Jaeger. Shartae goes, okay. And he's actually waiting for his teammate's drone. So here comes another drone. Waiting. He's called one that's in hallway, in arcade hallway. Now, they go off them for a second. He tosses another drone in. You can't see him. So we're still talking about Shartae on the hatch, right? These drones are zooming around upstairs. They have the intel. Ready? Renaults brings a drone up for Shartae this time because Shartae is out of drones. Renaults goes, no problems. And also, can we just back it up a second? I know I'm still talking about Shartae. What is that? What is that? I love you, BDS, but what is this? What is that? What is that? What are you doing? What are you hoping to achieve? What do you, I don't have words for this. What is this? What is this? Somebody answer me what this is, because I'm having an aneurysm over whatever this thing is, whatever this is. I'm going to give it a name, a monstrosity. What is it? What is it? For people in my chat asking what it is a bandit wire on a stairs with a railing. We're just going to do this. Hopefully everyone is understanding my confusion. Do you think my confusion is clear enough? Now, a lot of people are like, yeah, but if you're not paying attention. No, do you know how loud bandit wire is? No, don't do this. Please. Please don't do this. Please. For the love of God, please. You know what? I'm gonna even back it up. I'm gonna back up the fucking VOD to show you why you don't do this. We're backing it all the way up, ladies and gentlemen. You know why you don't do this? Okay. Other than the obvious as to why you don't do that, there are so many walls available for you to bandit. It doesn't matter. We're gonna move on from it. Okay, I was on a completely different tangent, and I've just pulled myself off that tangent. Okay. It's fine. We were talking about how Chaos act off information very quickly. Okay, here we are. I'm gonna make this my my desktop background. I'm gonna take a screenshot of this. Alright, wait, I'm just taking a screenshot. Alright, beautiful. We may move on. It's a fucking piece of art, ladies and gentlemen. Alright. So, Reynolds. Reynolds brings his drone up yellow stairs. And he spots, dun dun, Shiko with his back to the hatch, creeping up on Arcade. And he goes, quickly, Veto. No, it was Shate up there, take it back. Shate, drop the hatch, kill this unbeknownst character. Bam. Good night. Love the hot droning. Love it, Reynolds. An Ash who can drone? Mwah, chef kiss. Chef kiss to you. God damn. Alright, so we're moving on. 5v4. They've wasted half the round, but they got their kill onto one of the top fraggers of BDS, so they're off to a flying start, let's say. Oh, just what a headshot. Mwah, chef kiss again. Chef kiss to you, Shate, number 2. You deserve that double kill. Okay, I want to talk about this very quickly. We spoke, and you can rewind this video about an hour more, where I speak about triangulation and how to get refrags as defenders and how to set yourself up with a crossfire or set yourself up triangulation-wise for a refrag. What BDS are trying to do here is the right thing. Their method or their methodology behind doing it is the wrong methodology. They've got the right idea, the wrong method. They want to refrag Shiko. They want to refrag that other roaming buddy. Bing, bing, correct. What they haven't done right is how they've done it. They've fed themselves one by one by one. That is not how you go for a refrag. If you lose someone and you can't refrag them in the next 1 or 2 seconds, give up. You missed out on your refrag opportunity. Your window is closed. Give up. You're now taking on a new 1v1. It's not a refrag anymore. It's now a 1v1. So I would have rathered that Ironics and Alems decided, okay, we know someone's in cafe. We have 2 options. I can get my super shorty out. I'm going to open this wall for you, like stand in daycare. I'm going to open this for you, and we're going to stand in a triangle formation, which would look like this. And we're both going to fire at the person here in cafe, which is Shate. Now, that's a super specific example. There's 20 other ways you go about it. They both have C4s, for example. So they could go run underneath with a C4 and try and get him that way. There's multiple ways they could have gone about it instead of feeding one by one. And this is a mistake a lot of teams make, is they don't know how to... Oh, yes. Oh, ladies and gentlemen, I take it back. Oh, this is horrible. Okay, I'm having a moment of realization. And I need to triple check it. And we just spent 30 full seconds bagging on RX, or Ironics as he's now known as, about his bandit wire on Yellow Stairs. But we're about to bag on him again. Because that bandit wire on Yellow Stairs very well may have been his own barbed wire. Instead of a C4, I think he had barbed wire. So, that ever so important electrical barb on Yellow Stairs that Ironics desperately needed for whatever reason. My new desktop background. Love it, love it, love it. Chef kiss. May have limited him in not even having a C4. Doesn't matter. He dies anyway. Okay. But BDS need to work on their crossfiring or their baiting skills or something like that to help them get rid of these roam clearers, because Shate did that all on his own with, you know, a couple of drones. So there's a clear massive weakness for BDS at the moment in their roam game. They've got some really good gunners on BDS, really strong mechanically skilled players, so you shouldn't be losing. What they lack is coordination. That's it. So I'm talking about players here who are just so gifted. Alems and Shaiko, their mechanical giftedness is like, blows my mind sometimes. I want to give them props. It's just their coordination is really, really lacking. And some questionable setup gadget choices on the team. So, yes. Let's go with that. Renault gets Rafale, and it's all up to Renshiro. The ACOG was the problem. Kappa. And he does pretty good, actually, considering. I'm actually a big Rafale and Renshiro fan. I think they're great support players. I really like watching them on support. Especially really enjoyed watching Rafale at SI as a support player. Really, really thoroughly enjoyed it. Yeah. Just a bit of a pity round. The round went that way for Chaos. Off the back of a few drones, really. Really, that's all it was. And then, of course, we see match point. I believe match point. Yep, match point for Chaos. And they now are going up onto the second. BDS exclusively chose to avoid Armory. I have so many questions about that. So incredibly many questions about why they did not like or did not want to hold Armory. What about that room they did not want to do when it's been marked as one of the strongest defensive sites on the map so far? I don't know why they avoided it when they were in such a round deficit. They must have been so uncomfortable with their scrim results on that site, or whatever it was that they didn't like about Throne Room. It really shows. It really shows how uncomfortable they are. Now, again, you don't have to favor the site that everyone else favors. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you don't have to do that. But this site is so strong. Armory is so strong. Like, if it was like another like site like Bunk and Daycare and it was like Initiation, like where they're just like okay sites, then like, okay, no problems. Pick whatever your favorite is. But it's Armory. So, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about it. I just don't know why they don't like it. I'd love to know why they don't like it. Nonetheless, I do want, maybe they got like a little bit of claustrophobia, like their players like to move a lot. But they could have a couple of roamers with, 3 people sitting on site, bandit tricking, C4ing or something like that. ADS tricking. I don't know. I don't know what it is. Nonetheless, we see BDS's version of Bunk, and they actually put someone directly in Cafe. Like, directly in there. And often once the cafe door gets open, you're stuck. You can't go anywhere. And it's the Maestro as well. Skip through this a little bit. I wish I had have seen that kill from Red Groove. Because I believe what had happened is Vito got down by Renshiro, but Redgroove quickly took out Renshiro before he could finish Vito. That's my understanding. And then Shaiko finished Vito instead, but we missed the entire engagement, and I would have liked to have seen the lines of sight that they had to do that. We just fundamentally miss out on that. I love this. The ping comes out. Someone's on the vault. Rotate, please. Run. Full speed, Renaults. Ash, 5 speed, into the room. How he doesn't hear him is beyond me too. Shaiko got secretly, like, this round's a bit of a mess for me to analyze because I felt like I missed a lot of the east-west sweep. This I don't like. Redgroove knows that his team is not in the positions for him to push up like this. See, like, you still have someone all the way over a waiting room, and he's trying to push all the way up yellow corridor. It was too much too early. He was lucky he even survived that, actually. And he's still going. This, I didn't understand. This, I really fundamentally did not understand, is how anyone is allowed to crouch walk into initiation and walk through the rotate you made. I don't understand that for the life of me. I really don't. Great shot there onto Shaiko at the end too. That ends the game between Chaos and BDS. I want to preface, or rather put a disclaimer to the analysis I've just done for the first ever theme park professional league game that we've ever got to witness. I want to put 3 major points. 1, the setup we saw from Chaos was calculated. It was tactical. It was well practiced. It showed prowess. It showed dominance. It showed confidence. And I expect that waiting room hold to become one of the metas on this map. Now, I also want to make another point to say that there was much that BDS could have done to counter Chaos in a lot of their holds, especially Armory Room. I think that BDS lost a lot of rounds that possibly were winnable for them because they did not place utility in certain places or do certain things that they really needed to have done to counter some of Chaos's setup then. So, whilst Chaos looked really dominant, I think in a more prepared and coordinated push, they might not have seemed as coordinated or as clean as we saw their defense look. So that's a huge disclaimer to my analysis to say I'm hyping Chaos up here, but there was a lot of opportunity to counter them. There was a lot. We just didn't get to see it. I don't know if it'll work. I don't know if Chaos will counter-adapt to the counter-adaptation. Yeah, take my analysis with a grain of salt to say that Chaos's setup was supreme. That's one version of it. Okay? We've seen one rendition of Theme Park, and we need to wait to see more. We need to wait to see what the meta actually unfolds out as. So that's just a setup I strongly like. I really liked how Chaos did it. I really hope that, you know, we start to hear, you know, don't take Chaos to Theme Park. I want to hear that going into the future. Now, I know that game took 45 minutes and I took 2.5 hours to analyze it. We also need to obviously, I'm going to get my new screensaver. My brand new, not screensaver, my wallpaper for my PC. Love it, love it, love it. You're all going to giggle, obviously, but I want that. I want that as my brand new Save as, pictures, bandit barbed, we're going to call it. And that becomes my new wallpaper. So, again, ladies and gentlemen, I want to be very clear. When I do analysis on matches, I take my time. Why? Because I am someone who can break down every single aspect and factor of a game and sit there and talk about it for hours. I don't want to drag it out for you guys, but if you want to know the